University of Connecticut is the only land-grant and sea-grant University of Connecticut. We educate and innovate for the benefits of the citizens of Connecticut and the world. Our doctors, our engineers, our lawyers, our experts are the leading force of economic development of Connecticut. There is no Connecticut without UConn, and there is no UConn without Connecticut.
Wow, that's the Royal Charter of 1662, one of Connecticut's most important founding documents. It's the one that replaced this even more precious document, the Fundamental Orders of 1639. In a state that's so proud of its innovation, this may be the most profound one. People have claimed for generations that Connecticut produced the first written constitution in the world. Now, to be clear, it wasn't the first written constitution in the world, but even that claim shows you how proud we are here of our contributions to innovation, our traditions of self-government, and to the way that we have made and changed Connecticut history and American history.
Hello, President. Hello, Radenka. Welcome to UConn. I'm Radenka Merrick. I'm 17th President of University of Connecticut. As a president, my focus is to provide the best education to our students during their time at UConn to prepare them for the lifelong journey of success. The 5 pillars that I and my team are focused on are creativity, innovation, entrepreneurship, financial literacy, and emotional intelligence. Innovation is very important because the product of human brain is really innovative, creative world. And without that, we cannot advance as a humanity. So at UConn, one of our focus is to be world known as a leading university to address the climate change. And there is no more pressing issue that we are going to face as a humanity than the climate change. So our goal at UConn is by 2030 to be the carbon neutral and 2040 zero. And we will not be able to do that without innovating, without bringing the new solution, without integration of the technologies, without educating our students about the new technologies and to think what is that solution and how that looks like. We want to benefit our community, we want to benefit our state, and we want to benefit the world.
Connecticut is literally the embodiment of innovation. If you look at this aircraft here, this is the 1913 Curtiss Pusher. It was literally created by a 17-year-old in 1913. And then you look behind me, only 15, 16 years later, is this incredible aircraft developed by a visionary and genius, Igor Sikorsky.
Good morning, Michael.
Are you happy?
Yes, I'm happy. And you'll be happy too.
My name is Michael Cantor, and I'm co-managing partner of the IP law firm Cantor Coburn. So when I went to UConn as an undergraduate, and I received a degree in chemical engineering and materials and engineering, and then I went on to UConn Law School and came out in 1983. And at that time, I became a patent attorney, and the world of patent law was changing dramatically in the mid-'80s and into the early '90s. And with that change, the need for patent attorneys became really strong. And I saw that, and I had this hunger, and I had this dream that I wanted to really grow a law firm, and I thought I could do it in Hartford, Connecticut, which a lot of people scoffed about. People told me at the time, you can't build a global law firm in Hartford. You've got to be in Boston, New York, DC, San Francisco, etc. But I was lucky enough to have met my partner, Phil Colburn, who shared the same idea I did. We can use Hartford as a platform to grow, and we did. And starting in the mid-1990s, we only had 2-3 attorneys. We went to 5, 6, 7 by the end of the 90s, and then organically, we grew into an IP powerhouse, a global IP powerhouse. And our clients now are Fortune 100 companies from Korea to Japan to China to Europe and throughout the United States. We have 5 offices around the U.S., and we've achieved a lot in a relatively short time.
A brilliant mind from Connecticut is Igor Sikorsky. Now, a lot of people know of him as the inventor of the helicopter, but he invented so much more. And it started actually with a dream he had as an 11-year-old boy, where he envisioned that he was in a ship. His parents read to him about Da Vinci and about Jules Verne. Years later, during a test flight of one of his flying boats, he discovered that was the vision when he came out of the cockpit and into the back. He embodies innovation. He was a visionary and a genius.
I'm Ann DeLeva. I am Provost and Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs at the University of Connecticut. UConn is a special place. It's a special place within the state, and it's a special place within the country. Like many other universities, we are a public university and a land grant university, as well as a sea and space grant university. We focus on problem solving. So it's our mission to solve the problems of Connecticut, and by solving the problems of Connecticut, we solve the problems of the nation and the world. Sometimes people ask me, what's the greatest strength that UConn has? And I say, it is UConn's people. There is always an open door here. There's a spirit of collaboration, there's a spirit of welcome, there's a spirit of openness, and that leads to a lot of innovation and creativity.
Hi, Mr. Rocco. Hi, Kevin. My name is Kevin Rocco, and I'm the former founder and CEO of a startup medical device company called BioRez. BioRez was started in 2016 to help patients recover from tendon and ligament procedures by developing an implant that we called the BioBrace. The BioBrace is an implant intended to reinforce tendon and ligament repairs, things like ACL reconstruction and rotator cuff and Achilles. We invested many millions of dollars from 2016 through 2021 to bring this implant, develop the implant, and bring it through the FDA. We launched it in the United States in May of 2021, and it was well received by both surgeons and patients. We started to get a lot of attention for this implant and its capabilities, and so in August of 2022, the ConMed Corporation acquired BioRez for a deal worth up to $250 million.
Connecticut is a state full of a rich history of innovations and new technologies, and one of which in the mid-19th century was the bicycle, or commonly known at that point as the velocipede. Pierre Lalemant rode his first velocipede, which was a crazy contraption made of mostly iron and oak, from Derby to New Haven. Around the New Haven Green, the bicycle would go on to become refined and change throughout time, and very popular as a means to no longer have to use a horse, but also predated the uses of automobiles.
I'm David Noble, the director of the Werth Institute for Entrepreneurship at the University of Connecticut. Entrepreneurship isn't necessarily something you teach. It's a concept that you learn with coaching and practice. The Werth Institute for Entrepreneurship was designed to give students the opportunity to be able to practice with great coaches coming around them. The university system has been built in a linear manner for a long, long time. The Werth Institute was created because it's more than just supporting a student that wants to create a company. So our approach is not designed to pick winners, but provide opportunities. Most of the alumni engage with the Werth Institute with a strong desire to give back, not just financially, but also all the knowledge and experience that they've had.
President Kennedy made a bold statement. We're going to put a man on the moon within a decade.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth.
Connecticut really jumped to the cause. When you think about it, a spacecraft has a power load that extends long durations. So as a result, what NASA decided to do is to create a fuel cell that would provide both the power and the energy for this mission. Pratt & Whitney here in Connecticut took the lead to develop this fuel cell.
Hamilton Standard was essential and one of the major suppliers to the Apollo program, supplying everything from the essential zero-gravity flush toilets to the PLSS, the spacesuits that were essentially miniaturized capsules to protect astronauts in their environment of space.
Hi, Kazem. Hello, Dean Kazarunian. My name is Kazem Kazarunian. I'm a professor of mechanical engineering and currently the dean of the College of Engineering at the University of Connecticut. And if you look at the state of Connecticut, it is a state rich with innovation and advances in industry. There are so many exciting examples. For example, Mr. Noble in 1939 was the first person that developed FM radio for the state of Connecticut, which was implemented later on by the state police in the state. UConn Engineering was the first developer of solar panels, which actually was developed in 1960s and 1970s in an industrial scale. And White House asked our faculty and our graduate students to develop solar panels for the White House.
Michelle Donovan, Head of Marketing, GE Appliances. GE Appliances has a very rich history in Connecticut. We're bringing this community creative playground to the community in Stamford here in Connecticut, where people can come and they can utilize our space in a variety of different ways. We have a makerspace where people can come in, they can innovate with us and create new ideas that we could bring to life in our factory. We have a micro factory here where we will produce various small appliances under the GE umbrella. We have a makerspace that's designed to help people come up with new ideas that we can put into the marketplace and co-create together.
My name is Pamir Alpay. I'm the Vice President for Research, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship at the University of Connecticut. The first telephone exchange was built up actually here in Connecticut, in New Haven in 1878, which allowed for the commercialization of telephone technologies. You wouldn't be able to talk about Connecticut without talking about Otis Elevator Company. It's the biggest elevator company in the world. Two of the famous ones that I can remember, one is the Empire State Building and the other one is the Eiffel Tower in Paris. But Connecticut has always been at the forefront of technologies towards health and life sciences. There are two giant companies in the state that work on pharmaceutical industries. These are Pfizer and Boehringer Ingelheim. One such example that is not as big as Pfizer and Boehringer Ingelheim is Biohaven, which was founded by a UConn alum, Vlad Chorich.
Hello, Dr. Chorich. Hey, Vlad. I'm Vladimir Chorich, the CEO and chairman of Biohaven Pharmaceuticals. We are a healthcare company that's focused on innovating new therapies for patients and changing patient lives. We have a track record of bringing new drugs to patients, including Nurtec ODT and Zavegepant, two novel therapies that have changed the paradigm in migraine treatments. In addition to that, we're trying to advance the field in big therapeutic areas, diseases like seizure, depression, bipolar disorder, Alzheimer's disease, and Parkinson's, just to mention a few. We're not about Me Too drugs. We're here to change the paradigm for treating neurologic and neuropsychiatric disorders. So Biohaven was recently acquired by Pfizer for its migraine assets, but they only acquired part of the company. We're a global company that works with our clinical trials across the world and will file for approval of drugs in all regions. So right now, we're focused on a lead ion channel activator that we think is going to change the way that epilepsy is treated. In addition to epilepsy, that same drug, we think the molecular basis of that will also improve the treatment of depression as well as bipolar disorder. In addition to that innovative platform, we have another platform that degrades proteins in your body that's causing problems and disease. Our first platform is an immune degrader that targets proteins in your body that are causing disease. And our technology tricks your body's liver to actually degrade and get rid of these molecules. That platform has potential in a number of important indications in autoimmune disorders like rheumatoid arthritis, myasthenia gravis, and lupus. And those platforms include immune modulators of inflammation, and we believe that brain inflammation is at the root cause of disorders like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And we have a platform that inhibits those processes that we think will improve the therapy of those neurodegenerative disorders. And lastly, we have an additional platform that's focused on glutamate, and we think glutamate's at the root cause of certain disorders like obsessive compulsive disorders, anxiety disorders, and ataxias.
Hi, my name is Judy Riley, and I'm the director of the Center for Neurodiversity and Employment Innovation at the Werth Institute at the University of Connecticut. So the Center for Neurodiversity and Employment Innovation has as its primary focus improving employment outcomes for bright, talented individuals with autism, ADHD, dyslexia, and a whole host of other learning differences who aren't succeeding right now. So our center is really focused on innovating the process of hiring and managing. So how employers think about talent, how they think about skills assessment, but then also how they think about the environment once they've hired someone so that they're maximizing that person's talent and understanding what neurodiversity really is and brings to their organization.
An entrepreneur, an innovator that is known worldwide is Eli Whitney. Eli Whitney is credited with the invention of the cotton gin, which is arguably the most historically altering American invention that has ever been. The idea behind the cotton gin was to speed up the work of separating seeds and allow different varieties of cotton to grow at a time period where cotton was only being produced along the coastal regions, predominantly of the American South. The cotton gin allowed, in essence, the expansion of the growth of cotton westward, which was hugely consequential in the American history.
Hi, my name is Josh Cohen. I'm the founder and the president of the Junk Luggers. The Junk Luggers is an eco-friendly junk removal franchise. It's a national franchise that I started while I was a junior at UConn, and have developed it into a nationwide junk removal franchise with over 100 franchise owners across the country. I tried to use some of the things I learned from the UConn Business School just to get started. I printed up some flyers from my parents' computer, and I was going door to door handing out those flyers. I had no startup capital, and started with my mom's SUV. It was an old Dodge Durango, and I was hauling my neighbor's junk. From there, I saw that there was a real business here. There was a real demand. It's really evolved from there and become a national business. I started by opening my own locations in Connecticut, and then New York, and then New York City, and about 10 years into the business started franchising. And since then, we have brought on about 100 franchise owners operating in 33 states across the country.
We're a small but inventive state. Since 1790, well over 100,000 patents have been granted to Connecticut inventors. An object we have on display here in the Museum of Connecticut History is actually this Blickensderfer portable typewriter, and this is considered to be the first truly portable typewriter. It was patented in 1892 to George C. Blickensderfer of Stamford, Connecticut. He patented it as a typewriting machine, and it worked on the principle of a revolving wheel that reduced the number of moving parts from 2,500 to a mere 250.
My name is Marie Shanahan, and I am department head of journalism at the University of Connecticut. Journalism has gone through a lot of changes due to technology. So if you start with the typewriter, and you think about Polaroid cameras. The Polaroid camera was invented by a Bridgeport native. And where we've gone from there is really where everyone can publish online now. The University of Connecticut, including the Department of Journalism, is now exploring how AI is going to be used as a tool for journalists and obviously in other disciplines, but also how it's going to affect the information that the public gets and what they are using, interacting with, and creating themselves, which in my view makes journalism even more important, because since everyone can be a creator and that the amount of information that's going to be out there is just going to exponentially grow with the use of a tool like AI, that it's more important than ever for people to find good information.
One of the objects we have here at the Connecticut State Library is a rare copy of Noah Webster's 1828 dictionary, which was officially known as an American Dictionary of the English Language. It was published in 2 volumes and contained over 70,000 words. Noah Webster was from West Hartford, Connecticut, and while he didn't have a patent on this dictionary, he certainly is considered to be the father of American language.
Mark Twain came to Connecticut for the first time about 1868, and he was raising a young family. And they lived here for 17 years, And during that time, he wrote all the stories that he is known for today. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, Life on the Mississippi, A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, The Prince and the Pauper, and A Tramp Abroad. Sam Clemens also was a man who was fascinated with the technology and with the innovations of his time. Mark Twain's house was built with indoor plumbing, hot and cold running water. He had a telephone by 1878. He knew Thomas Edison. His voice was recorded, and behind me over here is a picture of him experimenting with electricity in Nikola Tesla's lab in New York City. So Samuel Clemens actually invested in several types of technology. The big one is on display here, the typesetting machine. It has about 18,000 moving parts. Over about a decade, he invested over $200,000 in that machine. So Samuel Clemens, or Mark Twain, he was influential on our world today in many ways. His novels and his literature are still an influence on American society, and that creation is why we know him as Mark Twain today.
Hello, Dr. Bailey. Hello, young Tricia. My name is Dr. Tricia Bailey. I am a mother of 5, a philanthropist, an author of Unbroken, and an entrepreneur. I was born in Woodland, St. Elizabeth in Jamaica, a very rural town where there was no electricity, no running water. We walked 3.5 miles to school each way. Sometimes we had shoes, sometimes we had none. I transitioned from Jamaica to the United States, to Hartford, Connecticut, when I was 13, as I got here the second day of going to middle school. And when I walked back home, my stepfather was home. And I lived with my mom, my stepfather, and my sister. And that's when the hell of my life began. He would force me to touch him and touch me. And at that point, I started trying to figure out how to escape from the torment of my home. So I started doing sports, and that's where I found track. I found track in high school and in 10th grade, and I started running, and running gave me so much peace. And from my running, I later received a full scholarship for University of Connecticut, even though I did not qualify because my SAT scores was not good enough to qualify to go to UConn and run track there. I decided to go towards being a financial advisor, and I became the first financial advisor in the history, the youngest in the history of Solomon Smith Barney at the time, and the only black woman in New England. And in 2008, life was too hard for me. Everything was dark. I decided that I did not want to live anymore. So I attempted suicide. And during that trial, I was transitioning from California to Florida. As my layover in Atlanta happened, they transitioned me from the aircraft and placed me in a corner in the wheelchair, waiting for someone to help me to transition to the next destination. 2.5 hours, I cried. No one came to help me. Later, a young girl saw me signaling, and she came over, and I was able to whisper to her for her assistance, and she helped me. And at that point, I realized that the disabled was invisible to the world. And that's where I found my purpose, is to help others. And I started my second company, which is Bailey's Medical Equipment and Supplies, because I never wanted another person to feel the way that I did. And as my finances grew, and the innovative ways in which I learned from being at my alma mater, UConn, I was able to inject those into my business plans and be in the financial space of being a billionaire now. Being regarded as the wealthiest woman that is ever in the history of Jamaica, and the financial space in which I'm in and where I came from, I now knew, and I have known for quite some time, is my purpose is to help others. And by helping others, I have extended my arms far and wide, not only in the United States, but also in Jamaica and other countries as well. I have about 400 children who go to college on scholarships from me.
I'm Jason Biedekofer, University of Connecticut Athletics Chief Operating Officer. The University of Connecticut athletic program is home to 11 national titles for the women's basketball program, 5 national titles for the men's basketball program. Athletics serves as a significant piece of the fabric for the University of Connecticut. We not only are striving for championships on the field, on the court, but beyond that, we are striving to serve our student athletes in a way that allows them to grow into men and women that are going to make a significant impact in the state of Connecticut and beyond. We're looking to develop the intangible skills that will pay off for our student athletes down the road. A significant piece of the puzzle for us currently is entrepreneurship. You know, the ultimate goal is success beyond UConn. Success beyond UConn is extremely apparent among our former student athlete population. A big piece of that is those athletes giving back. One of the main verticals that assist with that on a daily basis is the elevation of Championship Labs. Championship Labs is a university program under the umbrella of the Werth Institute, which is the entrepreneurship lab in the entire campus.
I'm Ryan Coles. I'm an assistant professor of management and entrepreneurship and the chief scientist at Daigle Labs. What we do at Daigle Labs is we do research on how to build businesses in emerging markets and how do you build businesses around emerging technology. And then we take those insights and we help commercialize science and technology breakthroughs. Sometimes we commercialize our own research, but a lot of the times we're helping other scientists and inventors build businesses around their research. I think something that makes us unique in our approach is that we leverage global sociology, global studies in the commercialization process, and that commercializing it is about all the technical stuff. When the reality is that much of the commercialization side of innovation is social. It's social, it's political, it's human.
My name is Coleman Levy, and I'm a proud graduate of the University of Connecticut. I was destined to go to college, and I had the great opportunity to go to the University of Connecticut. When I graduated from law school in 1966, I went to work at a small firm. My practice started to expand, and I really found a niche in the area of business, real estate, finance. I left my initial employer and opened up my own office, and then formed a firm, and over time built a firm of in excess of 40 lawyers. And so I also, along that period of time, I was involved in acquiring and purchasing the New Britain Rockcats, which were the member of the Eastern League AA franchise of the Minnesota Twins. In addition to that, I started to purchase real estate, and along that route, we became very much involved in volunteer work, and I became associated with the University of Connecticut. I eventually became the chairman of the UConn Foundation and was very much committed to the university, along with numerous other nonprofits, whether it be the Hartford Jewish Federation, the Boys and Girls Club, the New Britain Museum, and a number of other activities.
Innovation isn't always just serious-minded. It can be fun, it can be frivolous, it can be ubiquitous in American life. The lollipop, take for instance, was patented here in New Haven. The simple candy on a stick came about from here in Connecticut. To the same idea of the Frisbee.
My name is David Souter. I'm a professor in the Management and Entrepreneurship Department of the University of Connecticut School of Business, where I also serve as the Senior Associate Dean for Faculty and Research. we try and encourage people to think about some small ideas and some big ideas at the same time. When I have a class of entrepreneurs and different teams are picking different projects, I like to have a mix between people who are trying to cure cancer with their innovation and people who are making beef jerky a little bit better for their friends and something like that. Educationally, it's good to have that mix of things. And the funny thing is you never really know whether a small idea is going to make it big or a big idea is going to fail. You know, you think of the Frisbee. We try not to presuppose that that's going to be a failure and that the idea that sounds big is the more important one. What we know is that the ultimate success is going to depend partly on luck, but a lot on the individuals and the attitude they take and the teams that they can develop and bring together and kind of get through the different challenges that it takes to go from having a neat idea to a business that's viable to something that's, you know, huge and changes the world.
Hello, my name is Matt Melander, 2009 graduate of University of Connecticut and consumer products founder. I created a brand, Levia. It was the first cannabis-infused beverage east of Denver. We grew that product to be #1 of its kind in the country, and we're successfully able to sell that business. Through our connection with the University of Connecticut, we were fortunate enough to meet a team of scientists at the UConn Health Center who had generated a patented solubilization technique to take a plant botanical and solubilize it in water. With that partnership, we were able to build some really unique flavors, and in just 12 weeks, that product went from being new on shelves to #1 in the country.
My name is John Bell, and I am the director of the Ballard Institute and Museum of Puppetry here at UConn. UConn is really unique in the United States because we have this focus on puppetry.
Emily Wicks, Manager of Operations and Collections at the Ballard Institute and Museum of Puppetry. During COVID, the Ballard Institute, like so many cultural organizations, had to shut down and rethink our programming. So we were looking to shift our workshops to an online environment. We reached out to different professors and faculty at UConn School of Education, and we found Sandy Chafoulias in the school psychology program. This program includes 13 videos using puppets that teach kids about their emotions and strategies, and also provides freely accessible resources for teachers and parents to teach their kids these strategies using different methods. I created a fully contained puppet building kit for kids to make sock puppets so that they can practice these strategies and model them to their friends and family. This program has really boomed since COVID. We have received national coverage in NPR, WNPR, Edutopia, and other news organizations. It really shows how innovation and collaboration can make an amazing project that can make a difference in, children's lives across the country and now the world.
One of the most famous inventors in Connecticut is Colonel Samuel Colt. This is considered to be the first six-shooter, and this is called the Colt Whitneyville Walker revolver.
My name is Trent Moulter. I'm founder and CEO of Skyer, a clean tech company in Connecticut. I actually started my career right out of school with a company called Hamilton Standard, and there I was working on space components. I worked on the spacesuit for the astronauts. I worked on life support systems for nuclear submarines and for spacecraft. A group of us left the company, and we decided to go off and start a brand new company called Proton Energy Systems. We used a very similar technology to divide the atoms in water to produce hydrogen and oxygen gases. We hired a number of UConn grads that hit the ground running. So very quickly, we started producing product. We would ship these products worldwide. And within 3 years, we had a very successful IPO through Morgan Stanley and raised a sufficient amount of capital to really expand our manufacturing line and to further expand our product lines. Eventually, we branched off and started building systems that would produce hydrogen that essentially could be used for fueling fuel cell vehicles. I wanted to go off and learn some new things, and I decided to go off and pursue a PhD at the University of Connecticut. And so I took on a role of business development officer for the new fuel cell center, and I started thinking about, gee, how can we capture that waste gas? Well, what if we could also capture the CO2 and convert it to something that's useful? And I realized that an electrochemical platform could be built that could essentially do either of these processes. It could capture the waste hydrogen, convert it for reuse, or if configured a little bit differently, it could capture waste CO2 and turn it into fuels or chemicals. So we started growing these ideas and realized that these could really turn into products that could be meaningful for the world.
So when we think about submarine innovations in the state of Connecticut, this is what immediately comes to mind. It all starts right here with the Turtle, designed and built by David Bushnell, a native of Saybrook, Connecticut. He lived here his whole life and did all of his work and testing here. The ship was used in the first submarine attack in recorded history on a British warship. The lessons learned in the attack on HMS Eagle in 1776 are lessons that we have carried forward to the design and build of submarines today. This is USS Nautilus, SSN 571, the first nuclear-powered submarine in the world. With virtually unlimited submerged endurance, it is the generational leap in submarine technology that has taken us into the future and beyond.
Connecticut contributed a lot to the war effort during World War II. Example of that is the Corsair behind me. Every piece of it was built in Connecticut, from the Hamilton Stanley propeller, the Pratt & Whitney engine, and the Vought body. Connecticut has led the way in terms of the civil defense of America, as well as creating some of the most iconic aircraft.
I'm Jennifer Matthew. I'm the Executive Director of the Connecticut Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at the University of Connecticut. So through our programs, we've seen students in a variety of different industries across the board: consumer products, mobile applications. We have students in the School of Nursing innovating solutions to some of the healthcare needs that are really prevalent nowadays. But we have students in the School of Business that are thinking about ways to take their business knowledge and translating that into other industries, and supporting students in the School of Engineering and the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, and really trying to diversify their areas of interest with other students on campus. One of the things that I think is really valuable about entrepreneurship education is not only the fact that we're able to support students as they're launching companies that maybe one day become really successful, but we're giving them a set of skills that they can utilize no matter what industry they choose to seek a job in the future.
Connor Horgan. I'm the founder of Haffle Brewery, as well as Third Place by Haffle Brew. We built this large facility about a mile from here, and we really, from the very beginning, were obsessed with how we utilize capacity. But then we realized, as people started to visit us on the retail side and coming into our space to drink beer, that we had an opportunity to basically look at the retail capacity of our space as well and try and maximize that.
Connecticut is a state filled with a long history of innovation and forward thinking. And a person that exemplified that in the 1830s was Charles Goodyear. Goodyear sought to figure out how to vulcanize rubber, because at that point, rubber was still being manufactured directly from the rubber tree, and in the summer months or what have you, would basically melt, which means it wouldn't really work for its process of creating seals. This has led to the ubiquitous modern use of rubber. Rubber is in everything and or derivatives of rubber at this point. You cannot have a car, you cannot have a plane, you cannot have a computer, you cannot have a phone, you cannot have anything practically without the use of rubber in some degree. That's incredible. And that happened here in Connecticut.
I'm Nathan First, Vice President for Student Life and Enrollment at the University of Connecticut. I came here about 11 years ago and couldn't leave because students love their experience here. It's what they achieve, they get done on time. Why do they do that? They do that because we offer them in-depth experiences across all of our campuses, where they have support from academic programs, where they have immersive internship style experiences. And they get out of here in 4 years and go into the workforce and do exceptional in their life. So it's attractive for students from all different backgrounds, not just because of our championship basketball team, but because we have different locations, we have a broad range of programs and experiences available for students, a very diverse student population as it is. There's a lot of people who come here and they're first in their family to go to college. And that's changing their life, not just their life, but the life of their families. That they come here to the University of Connecticut and can go on to get a high-paying job, can change the lives of others in society, not just in Connecticut, but across the world.
Hello, Senator Dodd. Hello, Dr. Dodd. My name is Chris Dodd. I served in the United States Congress for 36 years, 6 years in the House of Representatives and 30 in the United States Senate representing the state of Connecticut. I served as the chairman of the Senate Banking Committee. I served on the committee for 28 years before becoming chairman. But many people will remember just a few years ago when one of the largest economic crises, almost comparable to the Great Depression. This crisis was global in many ways, and we felt it here with the failures of iconic financial institutions in this country that failed during that period of 2007, 2008. And I decided we couldn't just leave the world looking like it did in September of 2008. So I drafted a bill, and many have called it one of the most important financial services pieces of legislation in the history of the country, the so-called Dodd-Frank bill. Well, what did you do? Well, first of all, there are changes in the system. So a lot more transparency, getting rid of the kind of consolidation that was occurring with institutions becoming too large who really didn't have any right to that and posing real risks to financial consumers. The most important thing in financial services is confidence. I can't legislate confidence. How do I write a bill that says you got to have confidence? What I could do is to try and write a bill with elements of it that would restore confidence, not just on consumers here, but globally. Because this country is an investment attraction for people all across the globe, like to park their resources, including sovereign wealth funds, like to park their money in the United States.
Many of the greatest inventions that come about over time are often unsung or come about through tinkering in local shops throughout Connecticut, throughout the United States, throughout the world. One such would be Alvin Bishop, who worked with Edison, or rather Edison came to visit him at his shop here in New Haven on Grand Avenue, and the experiments in the early days of electricity helped lead to insulated wires. That same sort of spirit lasts to today. Here in New Haven, where a computer known as Badger was tinkered, put together, and eventually ran the world's first quantum algorithm, which is huge because we are on the cusp of a quantum era in computing. Once all computers can run these algorithms, we will be blasting forward to the future. Just as everyone in the past has looked to the horizon, we stand on a brand new horizon here in Connecticut.
Hello, Governor, and good morning to you. I'm Ned Lamont, Governor of Connecticut, and proud to have the University of Connecticut right here in our state. In addition, we're going to be making as a state the biggest investment in life sciences at University of Connecticut. Make sure that 21st century therapies and pharma comes out of University of Connecticut. Those are the seeds of innovation for the 21st century. Thank God UConn is there to make it happen. University of Connecticut, along with Yale, was recently awarded by the National Science Foundation a significant grant in terms of quantum physics and quantum computing.
Connecticut was known as an innovation powerhouse. The insurance industry was born here, and Hartford still is the insurance capital of the world. I was lucky enough to be appointed to a public agency called Connecticut Innovations, which is literally a venture capital firm for the state of Connecticut. We are fairly unique in having Connecticut Innovations as our venture capital firm, and I was appointed by the last two governors to chair the board of what we call CI, Connecticut Innovations.
Well, this is a great state. In this state, I've often used the example of comparing our state to a county in California, San Diego County, very rich county, affluent county in that state. Exactly the same size as Connecticut, almost exactly the same population. But we also have 100 institutions of higher learning, plus more than 100 of them. And of course, some of the institutions are tremendously well known. Our flagship university is the University of Connecticut. It's listed as one of the finest universities in the country. Well, we also have Yale University and Wesleyan and Connecticut College, the Coast Guard Academy. And then you have Central and Southern and Eastern and a community college system. And of course, many people live in this state, particularly in the southwestern corner of the state, that work in New York, one of the great metropolitan areas and centers of financial services in the world, if not the greatest. This is all Connecticut here. This is the Silicon Valley in the 19th and 20th centuries.
When we start to think about what Connecticut can be known for the next 30, 40, 50 years, it's the inventions in materials, the inventions in biosciences, the driving force behind the next wave of bridges. That stuff is happening right here in Connecticut right now.
I think innovation is a good word to use when we describe Connecticut and when we describe the university and its mission. I tend to think of Connecticut as a laboratory for the world. So we're bringing things into proximity that in other places are far apart. And this is one of the things that enables us to think creatively around problems like clean energy and responding to climate change because of the way Connecticut brings these things together.
Students first, UConn always,
Huskies forever. Go Huskies!